Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In the last class we have discussed about the cross-pollination. Cross-pollination, it is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower of one plant to the stigma of another flower of another plant of same species is called as cross-pollination. And this cross-pollination is usually brought about by certain agencies, and those agencies can be classified into biotic agencies and abiotic agencies. There are two main abiotic agencies which are mainly wind as well as water. Wind and water are the two major abiotic agencies which will bring about the cross-pollination. If the pollination is performed by or pollination takes place by the agency of wind, which can be called as anemophily. If the pollination takes place by the agency of water, which can be called as hydrophily, and even we have discussed the biotic agents also in the previous class, and this anemophily we have discussed in detail in the previous class, and the characteristic features of anemophilous flowers also we have discussed. Now we are moving on to the next abiotic agency, that is hydrophily. So hydrophily, so the pollination takes place by the agency of water, which can be called as hydrophily. You are familiar, hydro refers to water. If the pollination takes place by the agency of water, it is called as hydrophily. But the pollination which takes place by the agency of water, it is usually rare in case of flowering plants. If seen, mostly in case of some monocotyledons. That's it. But not all plants they use water as a medium for the transfer of pollen grains. Only few plants, few aquatic plants will be using the water, that we can discuss later. And you are familiar that in case of lower plant groups like algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, they must and should require water. Without water, they cannot complete their life cycle. Why they cannot complete their life cycle without water? Because water is one of the important requirement in those plants for the transfer of male gametes. So male gamete should be reached the female gamete only with the help of water. That's why water is very important. Without water, the male gametes cannot move, so that no fertilization can be seen and they cannot complete their life cycle. But in these flowering plants, it is not a compulsory thing. They always do not need water, and only few plants, few aquatic plants only use water as a medium, or they use water for the purpose of pollination. But I told you, not all plants need water. Not all plants use water for the pollination, only few plants. For example, in certain aquatic plants like water hyacinth, that is Eichhornia, and in case of water lily, you know that these are the aquatic plants which are usually present in water. Even though they are present in water, they do not use water for the pollination purpose. Then how pollination occurs in these plants? In these plants, the flowers will be produced above the level of water. If you observe, in case of Eichhornia or water lily, the flowers are produced above the level of water, and they are pollinated by either wind or water, but they never use water for the transfer of pollen grains or for the purpose of pollination. And certain plants, some aquatic plants only, they use water as a medium for pollination. Then which are the examples which are pollinated by water? Let us take a few examples. Examples includes Vallisneria, Hydrilla, and Zostera, that can be commonly called as a seagrass. These are certain examples which are mainly pollinated by the agency of water. That's why we are studying these examples under hydrophily. And here we need to know how the pollination, the mechanism of pollination which takes place in case of Vallisneria as well as in case of Zostera. First we will be discussing the pollination, mechanism of pollination in case of Vallisneria. So what is special in case of Vallisneria? See, this Vallisneria, it is a dioecious plant where both male and female flowers are produced on different plants. You can observe here, this is one plant of Vallisneria, this is another plant of Vallisneria. In this plant, you can observe only the female flowers. So these are the female flowers which are produced on one plant, and male flowers are produced on another plant. That's why I told you it is a dioecious plant where the male and female flowers are produced on different plants. And these female flowers, they usually contains a long stalk. They usually contains a long stalk so that they can able to float on the surface of water. Usually it is a submerged plant. That's why I have shown water till here. Even though it is a submerged plant, the female flowers contain long stalk so that they can float on the surface of the water. And these male flowers are usually small, which are clustered in an inflorescence. So this is the inflorescence. Inflorescence contain many number of flowers. So here it is a male inflorescence which contain a cluster of male flowers, and they usually contains a short stalk. So here we cannot see that one. So male flowers usually contains a short stalk, whereas the female flowers contains a long stalk. Then how the male and female flowers can come in contact with each other? So here the male flowers which are produced in a inflorescence, they are released. They are released and they can float on the surface of the water. So these are the male flowers which are released from the inflorescence and now floating on the surface of water. And these male flowers, these are usually passively carried by the water currents towards the female flower. So because of the water currents, the male flowers can come in contact with the stigma of the female flower. So here we cannot see the stigma. So here the male flowers now come in contact with the stigma of the female flower. So what is the characteristic feature of a stigma in this Vallisneria? This stigma, it is sticky in nature and it is unwettable. It is unwettable. The stigma of a female flower which is usually sticky and unwettable. When these male flowers come in contact with the female flower, if the anther matured, the anther ruptures and pollen grains are released. When these two are very close to each other, if the anther ruptures, the pollen grains will be released. And some pollen grains may fall on the stigma of the female flower so that they will bring about the pollination. This is in case of Vallisneria. So I will repeat few points. Here in Vallisneria, the male and female flowers are produced on different plants. So female flowers contain a long stalk and which are usually floating on the surface of the water, whereas the male flowers are usually small, which are produced in an inflorescence and having a short stalk. So these male flowers are released into the water and they can float on the surface of the water. Later, the male flowers will be carried passively by water current towards the female flower. And stigma, which is sticky and unwettable. When the anther ruptures, pollen grains are released. Some of the pollen grains may fall on stigma to bring about the pollination. So that is in case of Vallisneria. And in case of Zostera, it is commonly called as a seagrass. It is commonly called as seagrass, and which is a marine angiosperm. Zostera, it is a marine angiosperm. So what is special in case of Zostera? Actually here you can see the female flowers are usually floating on the surface of the water in case of Vallisneria. But in Zostera, both the male and female flowers are remain submerged in the water. Like we take example, just consider this as a Zostera plant. So here, this is the female flower which is submerged in the water only. And even the male flowers are also submerged in the water. And the pollen grains from the male flower are released into the water. Let us take the example. Here we have a male flower which contains anthers, and anthers will release the pollen grains. So where the pollen grains are released? The pollen grains are released into the water. And where the female flower is present, even the female flower is also present within the water only. And these pollen grains, these are usually, the characteristic feature of pollen grain is they are long and ribbon-like. The pollen grains in Zostera, they are usually long and ribbon-like. And this one, the stigma, so these flowers they contain a I am talking in case of Zostera. In Zostera, both male and female flowers are remain submerged. The pollen grains are released into the water, and these pollen grains will passively carried by the water towards the female flower. As the female flowers contains a long stigma, the pollen grains can able to attracted towards the stigma, as it is sticky in nature. The stigma is usually sticky, so that the pollen grains can able to attach to the stigma in order to achieve the pollination. And very interesting in case of water pollinated plants. In case of water pollinated plant species, the pollen grains are protected from wetting by the mucilaginous covering. Mucilaginous covering. So most of the water pollinated plant species, in case of those water pollinated plant species, the pollen grains are protected from wetting with the help of a mucilaginous covering, that is in case of Zostera. So here we have discussed two examples. One is Vallisneria, other one Zostera. How they use water as a medium for pollination purpose. But not these plants, because even though they are aquatic plants, they do not use water for the pollination. Only few aquatic plants only use the water. So that completes hydrophily. We have completed anemophily as well as hydrophily. Now we are moving on to the biotic agencies. In that, the first one is called as zoophily. So zoophily, as the name indicates, zoo. So here, in case of zoophily, most of the flowering plants, they use a variety or range of animals to bring the pollination. So as cross-pollination requires many agents, some flowering plants, they use animals for the purpose of pollination. If that pollination is carried out by, or pollination takes place by the agency of animals, pollination takes place by the agency of animals, then it is called as zoophily. And which are the examples for these animals which bring about pollination? They may be bees, birds, ants, etc. So these are certain examples of animals which mainly helps in pollination. So that is called as zoophily. The pollination takes place by the agency of animals is called as zoophily. Again, under zoophily, we need to discuss entomophily, ornithophily, chiropterophily. All these comes under zoophily only, because all these are animals, but we have given different names. As I said, entomophily, it is the pollination by insects, ornithophily by birds, and chiropterophily by bats. So these are the aspects we need to cover, so we can discuss these agencies in the next class.